Welcome to domain number 6 of the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers. But before I proceed, I'd like to remind you that because I have presented to you the domains 1 to 5, it doesn't mean all you have to do is to watch it and learn it. But the reason why I create mind maps is for me to be able to give you the key elements of these domains, and my expectation is that you will read through it. If you have not read domains 1 to 5, you better pause this and proceed to domains 1 to 5 before you even continue to listen to domain number 6. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, you may be missing a lot of things. And I intend to finish the 7th domain and go to other topics like metacognition, philosophy, principles of teaching and learning, and so on. But for now, allow me to focus on domain number 6, community linkages and professional engagement. All right. You have here 4 words: community, linkages, professional, and engagement. And that makes domain number 6 kinda special. Of course, when you speak of community linkages, you have the magic word links of the teaching and learning with what? You will link the teaching and learning with the interest, okay, with the experiences, and with the aspirations of what? And the magic word is of the community. Okay, this should remind you of what you call the TABA model. I'm sure you get to remember the TABA model in curriculum development compared with that of Tyler. Of course, you know that the TABA model is known for being described as the grassroots approach to curriculum development, which is also referred to as the inductive approach. Okay, the inductive approach, contrary to that of Tyler, which is more deductive in approach. And of course, you would read a lot of reviews that there is a preference for the Hilda TABA model as far as a curriculum that is grassroots approach and inductive in nature, because it is anchored in the community, aspirations, experiences, and interest. This is the beauty of this domain, because it's a reminder for teachers that you are not teaching the child in isolation only to be limited to what could be found in the classroom. You would remember that you're teaching the child and preparing the child to be ready for the world of work out there. And that's why one key element of this domain is community partnership. Community partnership, which the teacher should be able to engage the students into. And the purpose of such partnership is not for popularity of the teacher or for network building, but for the enrichment, okay, of the learning environment. You have to remember that the learning environment is that which is in the classroom. And we talked about that. That's one domain just on learning environment. But that learning environment should be connected with that community. And such connection with that community can be done through a partnership that the teacher should be able to make out of her influence as being a member of that community. And right here, you should remember that the teacher should be able to establish professional partnership. Okay, I want to call it professional harmonious relationship. Professional harmonious relationship with the community. And that's why you have the PTCA. Okay, the Parents Teachers Community Association, or actually community associations at that. But you know, community linkages is simply put linking the community to that learning environment so that the learning environment become enriched and so that the teaching that's taking place in that learning environment is harmonized with the aspirations, experiences, and interests of that community as prescribed by the curriculum development model of TABA, which is grassroots and inductive. Now let's talk about that magic word, professional engagement. Now, you would remember that being a professional is a matter of privilege. Okay, it's a matter of privilege. When you pass the board, of course, before you can pass the board, or before you can even take the board, you have to prove first and foremost that you have underwent education. Okay, from used to be 10 units before, it was elevated to 18 units in case you are not a graduate of education, so that you can add up to these units and then you can be eligible to take the board exam. But if you pass the board exam, the license that you hold is not a right, but it is only a privilege. It's only a matter of privilege. And that professionalization of nursing had a journey. It all started with Presidential Decree 1006. Okay, 1006 as early as 1977. As early as 1977. Of course, it is in this time when the board exam is given by the Commission, the Civil Service Commission. And of course, the National Board at the time, National Board of Teachers, is presided by then DEC, Department of Education at that time. And of course, with the Commissioner of the Civil Service and the PRC and 2 members of the private sector. At that time, the board exams are given by the Civil Service Commission. Then also related to this, you would have to remember, is a Republic Act, okay, a Republic Act 4670. 4670, and this was in 1966. So as early as 1966, there was already this Magna Carta. Okay, there was already this Magna Carta. And this Magna Carta, of course, is a protection to the socio-economic condition of teachers. And by the way, Presidential Decree 1006 is also an act that it's a decree professionalizing teaching in the Philippines. And after this, there were some developments in the teaching profession, and the most important development is that Republic Act 7836, okay, of 1994, and this is what we call the Teacher Professionalization Act of 1994. This is where the Board of Professional Teacher was created, and this is where the board exam was transferred to be licensure examination for teachers at the Professional Regulations Commission. But 10 years after, Republic Act 7836 was amended by Republic Act 9293, and that Republic Act 9293, just an amendment of 7836, and one of the key features of this is the inclusion of the para-teachers. And the para-teachers are those teachers who may not have passed the board but are needed to serve those areas of the communities that are far away where teachers could not be available. Okay, so just remember all of these laws that are important in the journey of the professionalism or the professional stature of teachers. And of course, because there is the call for professional engagement, the teachers are supposed to fulfill. Okay? They have the commitment to fulfill the obligation. Okay, an obligation in upholding. Okay, there are things that teachers actually uphold. And this is a major element of this domain. The first one is professional ethics. Okay, the teachers are now committed as professionals to fulfill that obligation to uphold professional ethics. And by professional ethics, always have to remember that there is a code of conduct of professional teachers where there is an emphasis on dignity. Okay, an emphasis on reputation. Okay, there is also an emphasis on high moral conduct. High moral conduct. And of course, don't forget that there is also a commitment for competence. Okay, the Code of Professional Teachers is like a 12-article code which identifies the teacher's role in the state, in the community, teachers and parents, teachers and the profession, teachers and higher authorities, teachers and other personnel in the school, and teachers and learners, of course, that's very, very important, and teachers and parents and teachers in business. So these are all related to that calling for the teacher to observe professional ethics. The second one is also the commitment to fulfill the obligation to uphold accountability. Accountability. Okay. And speaking of accountability, the closest word to accountability is liability. Liability. And don't forget that teachers would have 3 types of liability. One is administrative. Okay. The other one is civil. And the other one is criminal. So there are 3. Okay, criminal. There are 3 forms of liabilities that teachers can be, can suffer from. Okay, first is the administrative liability. Now, what have you violated for you to have an administrative case? You either violated the law, the 7836, or you violated the Code of Ethics, or any issuances of the board. Don't forget that the Board of Professional Teachers has 3 powers. And let me name these 3 powers. They have executive power. They have the Malacanang power to be executive. I mean, executive power includes giving board exams and so on. The board also has another power. They have legislative power. And that legislative power enables the board to come up with resolutions, board resolutions, and issuances. And these are laws in the teaching profession. And lastly, quasi-judicial. By quasi-judicial means that the board is capable of calling you by giving you subpoena. And when you're given subpoena, you have no choice but to appear with the Board of Professional Teachers and be part of a hearing. And they can actually make decisions based on the case that is presented to you. And that is the administrative case. Now, the question is, where is the administrative case lodged? It is lodged, it is filed at the PRC because that's where you find the Board of Professional Teachers. And therefore, if you violate 7836 or if you violate the Code of Ethics of Teachers, that person, your complainant can go to PRC and submit file a complaint against you, an administrative case against you, and the board will attend to that. And by the way, can you go to jail because if you are found guilty for the administrative case? The answer is no. Okay, can you be forced to pay a damage? Of course, the answer is no, because that is only administrative. And what can be done if you are given an administrative case and found guilty for violating that, or guilty for breaking that, the 7836 or the Code of Ethics? Then the worst thing that can happen to you is to be delisted. Okay, to be delisted from the roster of professionals, meaning you will lose your license. And don't forget, your license is only a privilege, so it can be taken away from you. Okay, now, of course, these are very rare cases, but most of the time, the board will only, reprimand you, will suspend your license over a period of time, or can you revoke your license? By revocation means that your license will be not issued as a privilege, but you have to comply with the requirement to compensate, like you can be sent back to school. And that can be an element for revocation. They say, okay, you go back to school and study for 9 units more of education, then come back to us. And when you fulfill that instruction, then your license will be given back to you. That is revocation, suspension, and of course, delisting. That's on the administrative level. Civil has something to do with contract. Teachers enter into a contract. If you violate that contract with one person, then you can be filed a civil case. And civil case has to be presented in the court. Okay, the question is, what would you do in the court? You will have to fight your case in the court. And that case, if you are found guilty of civil liability, will you go to jail? The answer is no. but you will be asked to pay damages. Now, the worst is the criminal. And by the way, what have you violated in the civil, to have a civil liability? You have violated the civil code. But if you have violated the penal code, then that becomes a criminal case. And criminal case is when you may go to jail, lose your license, or you may actually even be asked to pay damages. And teachers have sworn duty to fulfill that obligation to uphold her accountability because she understands that she has a liability. But before all of these can happen, the teacher should be given due process. Okay, there should be due process. Okay, now, what is a due process? What do you mean by due process? Number one, by due process, there is presumption of innocence. And by presumption of innocence, that means you are presumed to be innocent unless you are proven guilty. Number two, you have the right, number one, you have the right to a due process, and you have the right to be presumed innocent unless you are proven guilty. Number two, you have the right to understand the case, meaning you have the right to face your accuser. Okay, kung sino nag-aakusa sa'yo, kailangan pwede mo siyang ihaharap siya sa'yo. Hindi pwedeng ang nagko-complain sa'yo anonymous. Number three, you have the right to defend yourself. You even have the right to an attorney. Okay, so that's the meaning of due process. Okay, so if you become suspended for a case that you don't understand, even in your school, that means you are violated of your due process. Or if you were not given the chance to defend yourself, then they break your right to a due process. Or if there is already a judgment, even based just on the complaint, and you did not have that presumption of innocence, then you can always invoke your right to a due process. And lastly, okay, we also have a commitment to uphold, a fulfill obligation to uphold transparency. Okay, and by transparency, you're talking about governance. Governance. The teachers, you're part of, while the Code of Ethics dictate that you have to respect and give high regard to school authorities, don't forget that you also have to invoke that upholding, your commitment to uphold transparency in governance. Okay, all of these, ladies and gentlemen, all of these that we're talking about has something to do with community engagement, and such community engagement has the sole purpose of actually engaging the entire community to the educative process. Okay, to the educative process. Okay, to benefit the child. All right, remember, you're a teacher because there are children who rely on you. Okay, Tagalogin natin. Buuin natin, pag-aralan natin. Ang domain number 6 ay community linkage and professional engagement. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Ang teacher dapat maililink niya yung teaching and learning process sa interes, sa karanasan, at sa mga kagustuhan, aspirasyon at mga pangarap ng komunidad. Kagaya ng itinuro sa atin ng TABA model sa curriculum development na tinawag nating grassroots inductive, pangmasa. Alamin mo ang gusto ng komunidad at doon ka gagawa ng mga bagay-bagay para siyang magamit mo na halimbawa sa pagtuturo, sapagkat you need and you have the responsibility to actually contextualize learning. And that means if you are able to contextualize learning, ang ibig sabihin nun ay maia-apply nila sa kanilang komunidad. And remember, we are educating children so that they can be prepared for the smaller community and for the world of work. And they become not only citizens of that community, but they become what you call global citizens. Alright. At dito sa parting ito, papaalala ko sa inyo na meron kang pribilehiyo maging professional kasi napatunayan mo na safe ang state, ang mga tao under your care. And you know and you have the competencies to become a teacher. At nagsimula ang professional journey ng teacher sa isang Presidential Decree 1006 noong 1977, pero nauna pa dyan inalagaan ng mga teachers sa Republic Act 746 70 or the Magna Carta of Public School Teachers in 1966. At in 1994, nagkaroon ng Republic Act 7836 na Teacher Professionalization Act na define ang bagong board. Ang board ngayon ay inappoint ng presidente. Ang magbibigay ng licensure exam for teachers ngayon ay ang PRC. At yung Teacher Professionalization Act of 1994 was amended 10 years after as Republic Act 9293 na kung saan naramdaman kasi ang pangangailangan sa para-teachers. Ito yung mga guro na pinayagang magbigkaroon ng special permit to teach over a prescribed period of time and become para-teachers. So they will have a special permit to teach even if they did not pass the board. Pero kailangan ng board rating nila ay mas mataas sa 70. Pero hindi sila umabot sa 75 kasi 75 para pumasa. At dahil dito, because of professional engagement, ang teacher, meron siyang commitment, meron siyang sworn duty to uphold, number one, the professional ethics. Kaya nga may code of ethics ang teachers. And there is emphasis to the dignity, the pride, the enthusiasm, the reputation. Yun ang mga keywords in the code of ethics. At high moral conduct. At syempre, competence at that. At syempre, meron din siya kailangan i-uphold niya accountability, which is very close to the word liability. Na sabi ko nga, ang teachers ay may tatlong liability: administrative, kung na-violate mo ang batas ng guro, ang code of ethics ng guro, you will have administrative liability that you can file with the Board of Professional Teachers. At ang ang hatol dito ay may kinalaman sa pagkakawala ng lisensya mo. Pero hindi ka pwedeng pagbayarin ng damages, hindi ka pwedeng makulong. Sa civil, pwede ka nang magbayad ng damages. Pero sa criminal, pwede kang makulong, pwede kang mawalan ng lisensya, pwede ka pa rin magbayad ng damages. And finally, transparency, that has something to do with governance. Why? Because you are part of a system, and bilang mga guro, responsibilidad mo rin na itawaging pansin ang mga leaders para sa ikagaganda ng ating society at para sa transparency that we are sworn to uphold. Thank you very much for watching. Watch out for PPST domain number 7. And please go back to domains 1 to 5. And of course, this is domain number 6. Because you know what? Wala kang karapatan na maging isang professional teacher kung hindi mo naiintindihan ang Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers. See you again. Keep safe, everyone. God bless you.